Praise the Lord. I'm Pastor John. Lots of folks just call me PJ for short. And this is my sermon for August 15th, 2021. The title is Turn to Jesus. And the passage for today from Luke is chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. If you are a fan of sports movies, you may have already seen the movie entitled Greater that was released in 2016. Here is the trailer for the movie.
You want to walk on? Pay your own way? We certainly won't stop you. There ain't no way you're ever going to play. Not here.
He just might make it. Make it. I just hope he lives. Why are you wasting your time working with that kid?
Well, he wants it more than him. If I can teach my son how to walk, I can teach you these steps. You just got your butt kicked by a walk-up. It's no walk-up. The Lord knows that you've worked harder than anybody else, on and off the field.
You are living proof that when you do the right things, good stuff happens. And you have done everything right.
Of all people, how's that make any sense?
His life meant something. It had to. I've never met a better man than your brother.
He believed that if he worked hard and did everything he was supposed to, God would make everything turn out for the best. Didn't everything turn out for the best, Marty?
Have faith, Marty. This is my road.
How bad do you want it? Real bad! How bad? Real bad! How bad? Real bad!
Become the greatest walk-on story in the history of college football.
Now, if you are not a football fan, then it might not appeal to you at first. Greater tells the true life story of Brandon Burlsworth, but the movie focuses on the day of his funeral. We see his older brother, Marty, struggling to understand how a 22-year-old who had inspired so many, how could that man have died just 11 days after being chosen in the NFL draft? Marty is confronted by an odd character in the movie who adds fuel to the fire of Marty's anger towards God. When I first saw the movie, I pictured this man as the devil. The more I watched that character, it became clear that he is speaking the words of Job's friends that we read in the Bible. You see, Marty is just like us when the storms of life come, and they will surely come. We need assurance that can only come from our Father in heaven. Today we come to this familiar story found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, what we call the Synoptic Gospels. We leave the parables behind for the next few chapters in Luke to focus on the true identity of Jesus and witness the awesome power he has on earth as the only Son of God. First, it's a boat ride and a nap. Here's verse 22 and the first part of verse 23. Now it happened on a certain day that he got into a boat with his disciples. And he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side of the lake." And they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep. Everything is going along like a normal day for these disciples of Jesus. Many of them are experienced with boats on the open water, having been raised in the family business of fishing. It was not uncommon for there to be storms on the Sea of Galilee. Like any large body of water, the mixing of warm air from the surrounding land and cooler air over the water is the perfect recipe for a storm. It would be easy to imagine all these commercial fishermen had worked through a storm or two. But this was not going to be a typical storm. The other fact that makes this event stand out: none of these guys have ever gone fishing with the Messiah in their boat. Do you think that would give them a sense of peace and calm? Probably so. They can see him in the bow of the boat. Jesus is always pictured as being in the front of the boat, and that's a logical place to take a nap. Hey, look, I love to nap. I've often said that somebody needs to change that list of spiritual disciplines and include nap time. I can relate to Jesus here in this text. That boat gently rocking would be a great place for a little snooze. Now, one thing that happens to me as I lay down for a nap or at night, I'll remember something I need to do, one more email to send, a phone call I need to make later, maybe tomorrow, but never wrote down a note. These are the kind of things on my to-do list. Let me set your mind at ease. I'm well aware that my to-do list is vastly different than any list Jesus had in his mind. Hey, I never have to be the atoning sacrifice for the whole world's sin. Thank God. I'm just bringing this up because I think that when Jesus laid down to take a nap, everybody in the boat is thinking, it's going to be okay. Well, then came the storm. This is the second half of verse 23 and verse 24. And a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water. And they ceased, and there was a calm. Have you ever been sailing through life on calm seas? Then one day, your life turned on these words, and a windstorm came down. It sounds sudden. It sounds unexpected. That's what it is like when the storms of life come our way. These disciples were not ready for a storm that would cause water to come over the side of the boat. Now, from the point of view of a guy who likes to fish in a small boat, that's me, the last thing you ever want to see is water in the boat. There's nothing good to come from water in the boat. Can we all agree? Let's all agree, okay? So these guys are probably doing everything they know how to do in a storm. As a last resort, they wake up the napping Jesus. In our Bibles, it sounds like they are just giving the facts. We're going to die. I believe there's a subtext here. There's something behind their words that will help us with Jesus' response in verse 25. I believe they were crying out from the view that they have been forgotten. They have been forsaken, that their lives don't matter to God above or God in the front of the boat. It's so easy for us to go to that place. In so many ways, we are like those disciples. Now look, we don't say it out loud, but we think it and we hold on to it deep down inside. Hey God, can't you see I'm struggling here? I'm really hurting. Lord, you don't want me in this storm. I see other people and they have it so much easier than me. Now I bet you know what's coming next. God, it's not fair. Let me try that again a little more whiny. It's not fair. No. No, it's not. And it never will be. Because if it's always fair, we wouldn't need faith. See, that's the question that Jesus asked in verse 25. And he said to them, where is your faith? Jesus responds to them only after showing them that the one who created this world still has power over it. Just like when the God who judged the false gods of the Egyptians and brought his people through the Red Sea. This change in the Sea of Galilee was so dramatic and sudden that we read, and there was a calm. Until this time, the disciples have seen demons cast out and physical bodies restored. They had heard his teachings and seen him in conflict with the religious leaders who could not accept those teachings. Now, this is something new. So they marveled and wondered. This is a whole new level of miracle. Their faith in Jesus should be the same faith Israel was supposed to have for God. That faith was based on what God had done for them in the past. In 1 Samuel 7, the same God who brought them out of Egypt and into the Promised Land asked the tribes of Israel to return to him again. They have to stop following the false gods and worship only the true God, Yahweh. They've gathered to make sacrifices, and that's when their enemies, the Philistines, come to attack. 1 Samuel 7:7 says the people are afraid, but God confused the Philistine army with great thunderings, and they were defeated. To commemorate God's victory, the prophet Samuel set up a stone and called it, "The Lord has helped us." We sing about that rock whenever we sing the hymn, "Come thou fount of every blessing." This is how verse 2 begins. "Here I raise mine Ebenezer. Hither by thy help I'll come." That stone, your Ebenezer, is what God has done in the past to help you get through the storm. When you declare, "The Lord has helped me," you declare your faith in what God did for you in the past. It looks like there was a very steep learning curve for these disciples. We see them in the boat that day, now a calm day, with more questions than answers. I feel that way sometimes. not sure what God can do in my situation. But God is bigger than any storm that comes my way. God can and God will hear my prayers. That's part of my faith. I believe that His Word promises it. 1 John 5:15. And if we know that He hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have what we ask of Him. Jeremiah 29 verses 12 and 13. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. And Psalm 66 verse 19 and 20. But certainly God has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, who has not turned away from my prayer, nor His mercy from me. I have faith because I have experienced God's help in the past. I figure all of you have experienced God answering prayer in your life. It's not always like that day on the Sea of Galilee, but hopefully we have learned to turn to Jesus before the boat is sinking. We can turn to Jesus first thing every day for all the help we're going to need to row our little boats that day. Please don't wait until there's water in the boat, because with it brings a sense of desperation. In the movie Greater, Marty is struggling. He is desperate. His boat is definitely taking on water in the storm. The funeral has started and he's still outside. And then he has a moment of clarity, a moment of faith that we have a limited view. He realizes, much like Job in the Bible, that God has the view from above and we can trust Him. Right up to the end of the movie, there is no clue of the meaning for the title. But then we see Brandon Burlsworth's tombstone with the epitaph, "Our loss is great, but God is greater." That's a wonderful reminder to those of us who have and who will face the storms of life day after day. Our storms are great, but God is greater. God always has been, and God always will be. Amen.